Other artists like Dan Graham, who's a US video and performance artist, have explored the closed-circuit recording devices and the technological limits and errors such as of these systems, such as time shifting and image mirroring that accompanied the broadcasting of the Apollo mission. And here you see two examples of those experiments. In sum, the impact of space exploration onto art production on planet Earth certainly is visible and important, but yet to be studied in detail. This is just a very short sketch. Whereas the official art in space programs of NASA and ESA seem, at least to me, to have failed. Art in outer space is demanding because anything human beings do out there and in front of nothingness is necessarily pervaded with meaning. So we really should think about what we do in outer space, or better keep out. I think the point of doing good design is very important because whenever something happens out there, then it's somehow history, and I think we should enter history with good design instead of bad design. Now, I would like to present one public-private art project, which I think shows how future space art projects for Mars or wherever could have a chance to be meaningful and somehow exciting. And hope I did not offend any NASA, GPL, and ESA representatives with my somehow critical view onto art in space programs, because I think we can do some good stuff. So. In the summer of 1996, the issue of the August issue of the Science magazine spectacularly revealed the apparent microscopic evidence of fossilized bacteria on a Mars meteorite, which you see here. Bill Clinton's public announcement that the meteorite, quote, speaks of the possibility of life, and that although, quote, it promises answers to some of our oldest questions, it poses still others even more fundamental, so it's becoming philosophical. Fueled, this announcement fueled US and worldwide public discussion on extraterrestrial life and future Mars mission, and hence probably also alleviated NASA from budgetary restraints, I guess. The conflation of science, fiction, politics, economy, pop culture, and globalized mass media made the discovery of Mars in the 1990s a postmodern event, and I'm going to stress on that point. It is precisely the winning retro-futuristic and fictionalized propaganda for science and space technology that Europeans imitated 1 year later in competition with NASA's successful and publicly acclaimed Mars Pathfinder and the succeeding Mars Odyssey and Mars Exploration Rover programs. The European Space Agency started its own Mars Express mission to search for, quote, signatures of life on the red planet. In June 2003, a British public-private consortium under the direction of the principal investigator, in June 2003, an orbiter and a lander were launched. Now, the lander Beagle 2, that's the name of this lander, had been developed by a British public-private consortium under the direction of the principal investigator, Colin Pillinger, whom you see here, who is based at the Open University. Its explicit purpose was to find answers to the question if there is or has been life on Mars. Beagle 2 was due to land on Christmas Eve 2003, but has not been traceable since its separation from the orbiter and has therefore been declared missing. A landing and identification sign that never resounded back to Earth had been written in the source code of the lander's software and consisted in a 9-tone refrain composed by the celebrated British neo-pop band Blur. The jingle, programmed to signal the successful landing of Beagle 2 on Mars back to Earth, was reminiscent of the tune of the popular BBC science fiction television series of the 1960s, Doctor Who. As Pillinger states, the cooperation between Beagle and Blur was a marketing strategy to attract the attention of mass media and thus possible public and private sponsorship. Blur's drummer ironically commented on the call sign, quote, "How do you know what sounds like a friendly, warm greeting and what sounds like a declaration of war? But I think Martian bacteria love Britpop," he says. And, quote, "We're not expecting to find anything more than bacterial life on Mars, so I imagine they're like heavy metal," alluding to the lander's hardware instead of software. His statement makes clear that the tune, as a mere programming code, imperceptible to both humans and aliens, unlike the Voyager interstellar messages which I've just mentioned, had no serious intention to convey a universal peace message or to establish a basis for extraterrestrial communication at all. Historically, aliens have been the mirror image of humanity's fears and hopes by surpassing us in intelligence or wickedness. In 2003, Martians were imagined as late consumers of mainstream Britpop. Blur's retro-futurist reference to their childhood's mass media culture, such as Doctor Who, and their own imitation and commercial appropriation of British pop music of the 1960s and 70s exposes a sincere lack of metaphysical beliefs beyond a capitalist consumerism which recycles and re-exploits historical fetishes and icons. Much like the pop band, Pillinger declared himself inspired by earlier British science fiction culture of the 1950s. The Mars lander itself, before unfolding, appears to be a retrofuturistic citation of it, for it clearly resembles the type of flying saucer as it was canonized in 1947, playfully transforming the red planet into the inhabited Mars we wished it to be. Blur's Mars ringtone was most likely intended to repeat the global media success of the frightening and unforgettable Sputnik beep of 4th of October 1957. Instead of the victory of Soviet imperialism, it would announce the cosmic emanation of post-industrial capitalism and global entertainment, the final victory of pop over ideology. The planned landing date of Beagle 2, Christmas Eve, was probably calculated to back the project's publicity too. In a post-Cold War and seemingly post-ideological world, the exploration of outer space is not only a political power game and a scientific enterprise, but also a matter of economic exploitation. The abuse of Christ's birthday goes beyond commodification of outer space and can be interpreted as a postmodern and ironic reference to the modernist hopes for the epiphany of a higher extraterrestrial intelligence which would act as a material ersatz after the proclaimed death of God. The involvement of a pop group with a space agency is not only a business deal but also a symptom of contemporary culture, which increasingly merges science, economy, and art. In contrast, the sample of Ferrari's Rosso Corsa paint attached to by the ESA to the Mars Express orbiter demonstrates how public-private relations can be less inspiring.